is from the south. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and Chinese President Xi Jinping have signed 28 bilateral agreements in Beijing. They signed deals in the areas of oil, mining, security, technology, finance, and health. President Maduro said the agreements are perfectly aligned with the country's economic recovery plan. He also emphasized that ties with China are significant in stabilizing the Venezuelan economy and combat the effects of the United States and European Union-led economic war and financial blockade. President Maduro is in Beijing for a 4-day official visit.
Today we are signing 28 agreements that ratify the path of shared investment development, billions of dollars of investments. Thanks to the solidarity of China-Venezuela relations, Venezuela faced its circumstances. And I can say today, dear Minister Wang Yi, dear He Lifeng, today, September 14th, Venezuela is standing, is struggling, and is in better conditions, better than ever before.
And staying in Asia, in the Philippine Islands, it's the strongest storm in the world this year and has slammed into the northeastern coast of Philippines. With winds nearly 285 kilometers per hour, thousands have been evacuated and more than 5 million people are in the way of the fierce storm. The Philippine archipelago is hit every year by a score of typhoons, causing hundreds of deaths.
They say the typhoon is twice as strong as the last one in 2013 that killed thousands of people. That's why we are terrified, because we don't know what will happen to our houses.
And on the other side of the world, at least 4 people have died as Hurricane Florence rips through North Carolina. A mother and her infant were killed when a tree fell off their house on Wilmington. Another woman died of a heart attack in Hampstead, according to the local police. Hurricane Florence made landfall near Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. According to the Nation Hurricane Center, the storm hit with estimated maximum winds of 144 kilometers per hour. Heavy rain and flooding have inundated some areas. Thousands are without power. Tropical storm Isaac has weakened and further is now a tropical depression. It sparred the Caribbean despite warnings that it could have brought widespread destruction. The eye of the storm passed over Dominica around midday Thursday. The Prime Minister reported no deaths, injuries, or damage to property. Barbados Prime Minister Miamelissa says the Caribbean was lucky this time, but they can't continue to rely on luck. That's why she's pushing other nations and her own to do more to combat climate change.
We have been a world leader in solar water technology for almost 50 years. And now we intend to be one of the first examples of how carbon neutrality and climate resilience can be achieved across an entire economy. We intend to reassert ourselves on every international front we can engage to combat climate change, because we are in a fight for our own existence. Indeed, it is for that reason that we have set 2030 as the target for us to have a fossil fuel-free economy.
And to Brazil now, where presidential candidate Fernando Haddad has been campaigning in a Rio de Janeiro favela with vice presidential candidate Manuela de Avila. The candidates were greeted by throngs of supporters as Haddad came out strongly against financial interests while advocating for more public investment. Haddad also denounced political opponents for destabilizing Brazil's democracy.
The living expenses ceiling is a measure that doesn't work because it doesn't create fiscal room for investment. And without public investment, with families unable to consume, without cheap credit, the economy won't pick back up and the finance problems will get worse instead of better.
Haddad is now in first place in the presidential opinion polls. This according to a poll published on Thursday by the pollster Vox Populi. He was 4 points ahead of the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro. Two other new polls put Haddad in second place, but gaining rapidly on Bolsonaro. This comes just 2 days after the former president Lula da Silva endorsed Haddad as his replacement.
It has been traumatic, and we have to work on this politically. No one wanted this situation, but between giving up the project and repositioning in this way, we have decided, and Lula has decided to reposition ourselves in the race. As Lula said, we have a project, an idea. There is no point in stopping it, because someone will always follow the legacy, and the people will support it.
International dignitaries are meeting in Sao Paulo to extend their support to the jailed former Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Among the participants are the former prime ministers of France, Italy, Spain, and also the members of the Workers' Party. They are discussing the stakes of Brazil's upcoming presidential elections in the absence of their popular leader, Lula da Silva. Politicians described this situation as an attack on democracy. A number of the delegates visited Lula at the Curitiba jail.
The exclusion for the upcoming presidential election, in spite of the ruling of the appeal of the United Nations Committee of Human Rights of the candidate who would enjoy the greatest popular support, constituted I don't say a coup d'etat, but something similar in a new modern form.
Hoy día estamos
Today, we are at the turning point here in Brazil, where either Brazil chooses the road of democracy, continues respecting its rules and its demands, which are to satisfy what is most important to the people, or the opposite.
A team from UNESCO is in Brazil assessing damage to the National Museum after the fire on September 2nd. They will help researchers sort through the rubble and ash to find salvageable artifacts. But much of the museum's collection, spanning centuries, was lost.
We're thinking about covering part of the collection to protect it from rain. We are talking it over. You need to understand we are just beginning and we are establishing the necessary protocols to carry on with the work.
It's been 6 months since their Brazilian counselor Mariel Franco and her driver Anderson Gomez were murdered. The case remains unsolved. Here's our correspondent with more.
6 months after the assassination of the counselor, Mariel Franco, and his chauffeur, Anderson Gomez, the people mobilized and demand a response from the state. People denounce militarization in Brazil, and also the consequences of that intervention ordered by Michel Temer's government. People demand justice for Mariel Franco, and to ask the state about who killed Mariel Franco and who gave the order for it. Citizens mobilized to ask for justice for this unsolved crime, and to tell the world that Mariel Franco's legacy is still alive.
A 12% fuel price hike in Argentina has triggered widespread concern about a subsequent increase in public transportation fares.
Consumers already grappling with rising unemployment and low wages have been dealt yet another blow. The devaluation of the peso and increased production costs for YPF and Axion are having a profound effect.
The YPF energy company was the first to do it. Then, as it happens every time, oil prices increased, and then the other companies followed it. Naturally, this affects the economy as a whole, and especially families, because they need to spend more time on public transport. This is also terrible for logistics and for every aspect of our economy.
The transportation ticket will not cost up to 30 cents. This is way too high for commuters who earn very small salaries.
Every time when the value of dollar increases, the fuel prices also shoots up. Tariff on public services like transport, electricity, gas, and water increase too. Everything goes up but the salaries.
Experts say with these economic policies, unemployment rates are sure to reach 10%. This could cause a terrible recession, and it's the workers who will be hardest hit.
Es un año de altísima inflación.
This has been a year of high inflation. I think it will reach 50% and it will deeply affect our purchasing power. Unemployment has increased at a very fast rate, and numbers show that the industrial sector has lost 89,000 workers since 2015. The unemployment rate will reach a two-digit number soon, which hasn't happened since 2006.
This is the third fuel hike in a month.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur. Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Antigua and Barbuda's government has said that its exclusion from the visa renewal waiver with the U.S. is based on its support for Venezuela. The waiver would eliminate the need for citizens to pay in-person visits to the U.S. Embassy in Barbados in order to renew visitors' visas. The government isn't ready to buckle because of the support they received from Venezuela since 1974. Venezuela helped transport Barbudans to Antigua after Hurricane Irma last year. The cabinet says the United States is an important ally, but they're not going to abandon their friends over visa concerns.
The cabinet determined that it had to be as a result of the support of these three states for the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. But Venezuela has been exceedingly good to Antigua and Barbuda. Venezuela, as you know, forgave us $250 million worth of debt from the PDV. They reported that we could bargain with them over the inclusion of Antigua and Barbuda, but that bargaining would result in Antigua and Barbuda jettisoning the friendship with Venezuela.
And in an earlier program, my colleague Sayuni Gray spoke to our Antigua correspondent, Gemma Handy, about the situation. She explained the new rules have complicated matters for citizens, but they are in full support of their government's position on the matter.
It causes considerable headaches and expense for people here to have to fly to Barbados to renew their visitor visas. It's fairly expensive. It's a few $100 for a round trip. Just to put that into perspective, the minimum wage here is around $3 an hour. So in addition to the time, it's also quite costly as well. People here are obviously not very happy about it. I think sentiment largely they're in support of the government's position. Lots of people here have been very grateful beneficiaries of the support we've had from Venezuela. So I mean, the opinion is a little bit mixed as well. Of course, people are also reluctant to do anything that sort of could upset the US and put us in bad stead with them too. So lots of differing opinions here in Antigua and Barbuda.
34 Venezuelan migrants are home from Colombia as part of the Return to the Homeland program. This group's story is similar to their compatriots who've already returned. They face hardships they never imagined. Sometimes they slept on the streets. They've dealt with racism. Government officials have confirmed an increase in migrants going to their local embassies, trying to get a ride home.
I feel happy. We feel supported by the government, which is helping us to return, because we could not return on our own. We were unemployed and we were disparaged, just for being from Venezuela. Truly, we have met good people and bad people here, and maybe we were just unlucky. I have also run into many of my compatriots who are thinking about returning.
We have more from Paola Fernandez in Colombia.
The group of 34 Venezuelan migrants who left Bogota under the Return to the Homeland plan have arrived in Bucaramanga after a 12-hour bus trip. Another 40 migrants are joining this group who will then make their way to Venezuela. The people on the trip have continuously expressed their gratitude to the government program that is allowing them to go home. They say they are happy to see their loved ones again.
Former commander of the Colombian Army, Mario Montoya, has appeared before the Peace Tribunal in Bogota. Montoya is the highest-ranking military officer to testify in the tribunal as part of a peace agreement with the FARC. The court's mission is to judge the crimes committed during the armed conflict. Investigations against Montoya point to his involvement in civilians' executions, presented as soldiers' death in combat. Bolivia continues to lead the charge for the de-dollarization, a move against the power of the US dollar.
Bolivia remains the leader in the de-dollarization on the South American continent, with figures nearing 100% of the national currency used for savings and transactions, according to the first semester economic report from the central bank.
We can proudly say that at this time, more than 98% of bank loans are made in our national currency, and more than 87% of deposits in savings accounts are also made up of Bolivianos. This is something that no other country in Latin America has achieved before.
A decisive factor in maintaining economic stability and a strong national currency is that exchange rates have remained under control. The dollar has cost 6 Bolivianos with 96 cents for the past 7 years.
Más del 98%.
Achieving and maintaining stability in currency exchange is one of the requirements for economic strength.
The stability of the national currency, the Boliviano, contributes to people's confidence.
While other economies have dollarization levels in the 50 to 60% range, Bolivia records nearly 0% after suffering through dollarization levels of nearly 100% back in 2004.
These factors have made it possible to strengthen the economy. It is expected to be one of the fastest growing in the region, growing 4.4% this year alone.
We have registered the lowest inflation rate in South America. High growth and low inflation is a very difficult combination to achieve. But data from August shows that credit disbursed through the financial system to the population is the highest ever.
Another outstanding fact about the financial sector is its ability to maintain low interest rates. The interest rate at the Bolivian Central Bank is a mere 0.5%.
The Foreign Minister of Uruguay says negotiations between the Southern Common Market, known as Mercosur, and the EU have stalled. Rodolfo Ning Novoa warned that expectations for the meetings must be kept in check. Representatives from Mercosur met with EU officials this week in Uruguay. According to Ning Novoa, regional issues complicated matters for mutual cooperation. In particular, he named the upcoming elections in Brazil and the change of government in Paraguay as stumbling blocks. Chilean authorities raid former Catholic Church offices looking for new evidence related to the child sexual abuse scandal. A report lists 119 pedophilia cases currently being investigated in the church. Chilean Bishop Juan Barros has resigned after he was accused of covering up sexual abuse, which took place in the 80s and the 90s. Police clashed with protesters who were denouncing fast-track expulsions in Chilean universities in Santiago on Thursday. The students had gathered at Plaza de Armas in the center of Santiago to march on the education ministry, but were blocked by police, resulting in clashes and 5 arrests. One student reportedly sustained injuries. The Chilean government has introduced a bill granting authority to universities to expel students involved in riots. Students have slammed the law, which could lead to the immediate groundless expulsion of students who take part in rallies. Students and workers protested in Costa Rica on Thursday against the police invasion of a university. The protests are part of an indefinite strike against a proposed tax reform. Our correspondent in San Jose brings us more on day 5 of the strike and the standoff with the president.
It's the 5th day of the indefinite national strikes here in Costa Rica. Various labor unions have gathered in front of the presidential palace. They are demanding changes in the fiscal plan so that it benefits the workers. This is what labor unions are demanding on this 5th day. They have also said there won't be a general protest like the one on Wednesday, with more than 300 people, but instead, smaller protests are taking place across the country. President Carlos Alvarado has said that he won't negotiate with labor unions while they are protesting. This is what is happening in Costa Rica at the moment. The strike continues. We'll get back to you as soon as we can.
More than 100 artists are celebrating diversity in the Bienal Art Exhibition in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It is the 33rd anniversary of the world's second oldest art exposition after the Vienna version, having started in 1951. 600 works try to make diversity coexist with different themes explored in such diverse ways. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
It was affecting us as women, and we don't want that thing to happen again. If we can do this drama and record it, maybe even the youngsters, when they grow, they can see, they can know what was happening at Marigana on the 16th August 2012.
Sunday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. 3 Palestinians, including a 12-year-old, have been shot dead by Israeli forces along the Gaza Strip. According to the health ministry, apart from these 3 deaths, at least another 50 people demonstrating along the border were injured. Protests broke out at the end of March 2018, and deadly clashes continue almost on a weekly basis ever since. The Spanish parliament has voted in favor of moving the remains of the dictator Franco. Since his death in 1975, Franco's body has lain in a mausoleum capped with a giant cross in the Valley of the Fallen near Madrid. The right-wing People's Party and the Citizens Party both opposed the move, but the parties of the left, as well as Basque and Catalan nationalists, all voted in favor.
Buenas tardes a todos y saludos desde Madrid.
Spanish Parliament passed a law on Thursday to exhumate the dictator Franco's body. The law has approved with 172 votes for, 164 abstentions, and 2 against. These 2 votes belong to 2 Popular Party's deputies who made a mistake. Both right-wing Popular Party and Citizens abstained from voting. Votes supporting the law belong to the Socialist Party, Together We Can coalition, and Basque and Catalan nationalists parties. Popular Party and Citizens said their abstentions are due to the lack of urgency with this law. The parties also say this ruling is a cover to hide the government's bad management. The government instead says that their abstentions go against democracy and dignity. The law can be modified and negotiated. The government's goal is to negotiate with Franco's family for them to take care of the remains. The dictator's family says they don't agree with the exhumation and they will take care of the government to court. If the family and the government do not reach an agreement, the public authorities will have to take care of the body and give it to a decent burial. Popular Party also opposes to the exhumation and will try to find an unconstitutional appeal to the Supreme Court. The law has passed on Thursday amid cheerings in what the left parties consider to be an historical victory.
Thank you, Adriana, for your report. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And also join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.